Good afternoon and welcome back to our ACA series. This is session 5 and we're doing Testing Your ACA Knowledge Part 2. So thank you for joining us today. We certainly appreciate your attendance. So today's presentation is brought to you by Medcom Benefit Solutions and presented by Tom Neal, our ACA sales expert. Myself, I'm the director, Casey Hope, the director of marketing and communications, and we have our special guest here, Jennifer Smith, our ACA account manager. So as you can see, our ACA expert, Michelle Barki, is unable to be with us today. Tom and I, of course, will work to pick up the slack, but we do rely on Michelle's expansive ACA knowledge to answer many of our tough questions. So with that being said, we are pleased to welcome Jennifer Smith. She's one of our extraordinary ACA account managers and is here to help us tackle questions at the end. However, if we run into any of those complex legislation-based questions that we get sometimes with ACA, we'll definitely take those and consult with Michelle after the webinar closes out and send her responses to all attendees for any of those questions that we received today. So just to let you know, we are recording this presentation. We will have our standard Q&A session at the end. So if at any time you have a question about any of our questions that we're going to pose to you guys today, please feel free to put those in the questions panel of GoToWebinar, and we will discuss those at the end and give you what answers that we can. So thank you so much for understanding and thanks for being here and welcome to my team members. Let's go ahead and get started with today's webinar. So we're going to talk about ACA confusion. If you were with us last week, we presented on ACA confusion and presented 5 different polls for you guys. We're going to have part 2 of that today. So we're going to be testing your knowledge, and then we're going to talk about a little bit about how Medcom can help. All of our ACA solutions that can really take the burden off of you and your clients. So confusion is the state of being bewildered or unclear in one's mind about something. So what's our level of confusion when it comes to ACA? Let's find out. So our first question or scenario today. So we have a client that comes to you and they're very confused because ACA is confusing. In some places, it refers to a seasonal worker, and in other places to a seasonal employee. The client understands that maybe this wasn't the clearest law ever written, but they do want to know the correct term. Is it worker or employee? How would you advise? So is the seasonal employee correct? Is seasonal worker correct? Does it matter? Let's go ahead and launch our first poll here. What is the correct terminology? So is it seasonal employee, seasonal worker? It doesn't matter, they're interchangeable, or it depends. Thank you guys for getting in your poll answers. We appreciate the interaction that you guys provide with these webinars. I'm going to give you just a few more seconds so we can collect those responses and make sure we have a good read of our audience. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close this out. So here are our results. We have 25% that say seasonal employee, 10% that say seasonal worker, 25% it doesn't matter, and 40% it depends. So what are we actually looking at here? Well, you guys had it right, 40%, it depends. Seasonal worker is used to assist in the applicable large employer determination. So if you exceed those 50 full-time employees, including the full-time equivalents for 120 days or fewer in the calendar year, due to seasonal workers, you are not an ALE. Seasonal employee is considered a variable hour employee. If they work no more than 6 months and it relates to a season that repeats each year. The term is used to determine full-time or variable employee status. So use the term seasonal worker to determine ALE status and seasonal employee to determine whether they should be placed in a measurement period. They are not interchangeable and have their own purpose. So that is really good to know. So our next question. A client comes to you and they just got a huge contract, super excited. They need to hire 100 employees, but only for 6 months. the employees will work the full 40 hours a week, but no longer than 6 months. Do these employees need to be offered benefits? So I'm going to go ahead and launch the next poll. So here are your options. We have 100 new employees working 40 hours a week for only 6 months. Should they be offered benefits? So we've got yes, because they are not a seasonal employee. No, because as a short-term employee, you do not have to worry. You can treat them as a variable hour employee, or as always, we have the it depends. Give you guys a few more seconds to send in your answers to this poll. This one stumped me a little bit, as some of them do for ACA, because the language, it is very confusing. All right, we're going to go ahead and close this out, and I'll share with you the results. 24% say yes, they are not a seasonal employee. 29% say no, they are a short-term variable hour employee. You don't have to offer benefits. And 48% say it depends. You know, I understand why that it depends feels like a pretty safe answer. But for this one, it's yes, you do have to offer benefits because they are not a seasonal employee. So the IRS made that distinction between short-term employees and seasonal employees. The short-term employees are expected to work at least 30 hours a week or more, and they must be offered benefits. So this was specifically addressed, and the Treasury Department and IRS were concerned that the short-term employees would be abused. So they didn't offer any of those special provisions just to protect them so that they wouldn't be offered a position and then terminated, and not to offer that insurance benefit. So yes, you do have to offer those benefits as they are not a seasonal employee. Poll question number 3. You have another client that states they have a long-term employee who was full-time but is moving to part-time on July 1st of 2021. How do you advise the client on how to handle this switching from full-time to part-time? So here's our question. We have a full-time employee moving to part-time as of July 1st. How do you advise? Do you terminate the employee on July 1st, 2021 because it states in the plan document that part-time employees are not covered? Or do you not terminate because until the end of the stability period, or at least 3 consecutive months where the employee works under 130 hours for each of those 3 months? So to terminate or to not terminate, that seems to be our question today. Thank you so much for getting those poll answers in here. It seems to have stumped several of us out there. I can understand it is a very confusing question. Michelle put these questions together today, and I think she did a fantastic job. All right, I've closed the poll. I'm going to go ahead and share the results. We have 40% that say terminate because it states in the plan document that part-time employees are not covered. 60% say do not terminate until the end of the stability period. So what says our poll? Number 2, 60% has it. Great job, everyone. So we do not terminate. When you have a full-time employee that goes part-time, who went through the waiting period of no more than 91 days, the IRS states you have to address the situation in one of these ways listed on your screen. Look back at the last measurement period and continue offering benefits throughout the stability period. Or number 2, continue offering benefits for at least 3 months. And if during that time they work fewer than that 130 hours, benefits can terminate. But you have to have one of those scenarios occur. The IRS considers them a full-time employee for group health plans only. Employers can terminate other benefits. This is for your group health plans only. All right, moving right along to ACA poll question number 4. So here is where we get into some coding on some of your 1095C forms. Your client has a self-funded health plan and offers benefits to the employee, spouse, and dependents. Employee terminated on July, or is terminating on July 1st, 2021. The spouse and child were qualified beneficiaries as they were covered under the plan on June 30th. All of them elected to take COBRA coverage. On the 1095C, the coding for the months from July to December should be which of the following? So here we have our potential answers. I'm going to take a little bit of time to go over this because it is a lot of information. So you have option A, that you use code 1E of line 14, which means coverage was offered to the employee, spouse, and dependent. Full COBRA premium amount on line 15. Code 2C on line 16 saying the family took the coverage, and then check the appropriate boxes in part 3. Or option B, we have code 1H on line 14, which is no offer of coverage, no premium on line 15. 2C, they took the coverage on line 16, and of course, checking the appropriate boxes for part 3. Option C here is code 1H on line 14, no offer of coverage, no premiums on line 15. 2A, not an employee on line 16, and check appropriate boxes in part 3. So which one is the correct one to go with? I'll let you get another look, get time to look at the screen. We've got option A, option B, option C, and I'm going to go ahead and launch this form, this poll here. So which coding is correct for Form 1095C? Is it option A, which was code 1E and line 14, coverage offered to the employee, and then the full COBRA premium amount on line 15? 2C on line 16, where the family took the coverage? Or was it option B and C, which both used code 1H on line 14, no premium on line 15? All right, we're getting our answers in here. Thank you guys so much for participating. This is a tough one for sure. I'm gonna go ahead and close that out, and I'll share the results. So we have 53% that say it's option A. Option B has 21%, with 26% saying option C. So let's see what our poll says. The answer is option C. The 26% has it. So we're going to code 1H on line 14 for no offer of coverage, no premiums on line 15, and 2A, not an employee, on line 16, and then check the appropriate boxes. Basically, the reason why is lines 14, 15, and 16 will not match part 3, but it doesn't matter. Lines 14, 15, and 16 are for the employer mandate, and part 3 is for the individual mandate only. So that's why there's that difference there. All right, so we have one last question for today. These have been a little bit of a brain squeeze, I do believe. So well done to Michelle for really challenging us on our ACA knowledge. We have a client that has a self-funded health plan and offers benefits to the employee, spouse, and dependents, much like the last scenario. The employee went part-time on July 1st. The reduction of hours occurred 3 months prior, but the employee was classified as full-time until July 1st. The spouse and child were not qualified beneficiaries and not offered COBRA coverage. The employee also elected not to take the coverage. What is the Form 1095C coding for months July through December? So here we have 3 options again, give you guys some time to kind of review these options. Option A, we have code 1E of line 14, coverage offered to employees, spouse, and dependent under plan design. Full COBRA premium on amount on line 15. Nothing on line 16 as COBRA coverage is not affordable. After July, no boxes checked for part 3. Option B is code 1B on line 14. 1B says that coverage was offered to employee only. Full premium for single coverage only on line 15. 2B for part-time employee on line 16. And after July, no boxes checked for part 3. Or option C, we have code 1H on line 14. No offer of coverage. No premiums on line 15. 2A, not an employee on line 16, and after July, no boxes checked in part 3. So I'm going to go ahead and launch the poll, get in, make sure you know which option you're going to go with. What is the correct coding for July through December on the Form 1095C? So we have option A, option B, and option C. I'll go ahead and give you guys just a moment to get your answers in, and we'll close the poll. All right, thank you so much for that. I'm going to go ahead and share our results. We have 17% that say option A, 44% that say option B, and 39% that say option C. What does our poll actually say? Option B, code 1B on line 14 for coverage offered to employee only, as the spouse and dependents were not qualified beneficiaries. The full premium for single coverage only on line 15, and 2B for part-time employee on line 16. And then, of course, after July, no boxes would be checked in that part 3, which is the individual mandate. So coding for COBRA is different depending on that part-time status, and that's why we have a little bit different codes here. It may be how the IRS knows who to audit and make sure that the benefits don't stop on the month you have a reduction of hours. So thank you so much for participating in our polls today. They were quite tricky, I have to say, at least, but I think that you guys did very well in your responses. So thank you so much. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Tom Neal so he can talk a little bit more about how we can help and so that you don't have to face these tough situations all by yourself. Tom?
Thank you, Casey, and a great job. And always kudos to Michelle. These were some great questions. And much like our other episodes in this webinar series, it really shows you that ACA can be incredibly complex and difficult to work with. And that really kind of leads to what our options are with our full service solutions. The whole idea we had behind putting our products together was to give you a solution that will give you a sharp edge in the market and with your current clients so that we can take care of these kind of complexities. We have the professionals on staff like Jennifer with us today who can handle this, who know the right answers. And I'm going to go ahead and say no comment on my results, but just looking back, this is a group of professionals in this industry looking at this, and we are still all over the board on these types of questions. So it just really shows you got to have an expert in place. There's a lot of different solutions out there with lots of really amazing technology, but unless there's some kind of expert behind that technology, it really doesn't cover your client. So make sure you're looking at the right solutions. And for us, obviously our employee reporting is our flagship of that book of business that we do, and it is a full service solution. And I'll go into some details on that, but we also offer the FTE tracking. And that's for those seasonal employees that we kind of talked about earlier, or variable hour. If you have an employer that has those types of employees, it is imperative that they're being tracked correctly so they know who to provide those benefits to and who doesn't need them. When we talk to those types of clients, staffing companies, restaurants, service industry, that usually is where they get in trouble, is making sure that they are providing the benefits to the right people. We also offer our penalty appeals support. Michelle also heads up that area, and we do an amazing job there. We're well over 50 million in proposed penalties that we've been able to help mitigate. But again, you always want to have the right answer up front so you don't have to deal with penalties. But if you do get a client that does that, it's a great door opener. It's a great way to show that you can solve their problems, and we can certainly assist you with it. Along with that, and tags in with is ACA backfiling. Not many vendors do that. We do, and in many cases, when a new prospect has a penalty letter and wants to talk to you with that, it's probably going to involve backfiling because they never knew they were supposed to do it. So we can certainly do either one of those services, or they can be combined to make sure that you've got your employer covered for everything. We also offer our consulting and strategic evaluation. You got a client that kind of know what they want to do and are looking for a coach, looking for someone who can provide those answers. We can certainly set something up like that. And then we're now not on the slide, but I want to kind of tease the tease. You definitely want to stay to the questions part. We have a new tool that we're going to be presenting to you guys in 2 weeks, and Casey's going to talk briefly on it, but it is a game changer. It is going to give you another tool in the ACA portfolio to give you that edge, both with your current clients and prospects, and it's going to make your employers extremely happy with the offerings that it'll help. To kind of give you some details, at least to show you that full service, I'll talk about our employee reporting. And again, Jennifer knows exactly these items. She is one of our expert account managers. And so if you joined us and she's assigned, she is going to set up a strategic meeting with you and your client She's going to go over the requirements. She's going to go over that client specific situation. Every employer is different. Going to go over their data needs and how many different vendors they have and what challenges they have to get that information. The best news for us is we're easy on data. We will set up a secure web portal. It's a drag and drop window, and your employer can drop that data. You can also drop that data, and we're going to take it, even if it's from multiple sources and formats, as long as it's in a live format. Jennifer and her team have a whole set of dedicated ACA data technicians that will take it, move it around, and put it in the format we need to do the service. That is included in the product. They're also going to run analysis through our proprietary system, but also Jennifer's going to have her eyes on it and her team of experts. That's that human factor to make sure things look right and it's going forward the right way. We're going to do that validation. We're going to generate those 1095Cs in a PDF format with the correct safe harbor encoding. And we just talked about all the complexity in coding, but we're going to make sure those are correct. We're going to put them in that secure portal that we're setting up. And in the meantime, we're going to email a model notice, which is a 1095 blank, but with explanations of what each box is for, that they can give their employees in case they have any questions of what in the world is this 1095C I got. Now, when we put those forms in that secure portal for the employer and yourself, we're also going to put a cheat sheet that basically states what we did and why we did it. At the end of the day, the employer is on the hook and responsible for doing this reporting. So we want them to understand what we did, why we did it, and give us the go-ahead to move forward. Once they give us that go-ahead, we will then print those forms and mail them to everyone that was eligible to receive. If we get any pushback, return to sender, refuse, we're going to work with the employer to make sure we get them out and make sure they are covered as it pertains to the act. And then finally, we're going to e-file the 1095Cs and the 1094C cover sheet to the IRS using their proprietary system. That system can be cantankerous, not a lot of fun, but we know how to work with it. I'm sure Jennifer can tell you war stories, but we know how to work with it, and we're not going to be done until we get everything that's been pushed back entered correctly and submitted. That way we will have that receipt showing that the forms were submitted and the date. We will keep that and the reports that we created in that secure portal. And that way, if the client is ever approached and audited by the IRS or the DOL, they will have a ready source of where to get that information. So as you see, I mean, it is a full service solution. Everything that I mentioned is included in the product. And what we're trying to do here is put something together that's kind of a set it and forget it. What you would do is you get your client, once they're on board, we're doing it. We are now handling the tough parts of this. Jennifer and her team are doing the heavy lifting, and we take care of them. And that's kind of how we look at all our products here at Medcom. We are trying to put solutions together to give you that competitive edge. We have our CDHP and COBRA billing teams. COBRA just got through a huge amount of work with the ARPA that had to be done, and that they are now beyond that and moving forward and ready to help. We have our HIPAA privacy and security solutions. We also have our health and welfare compliance and actuarial solutions. So again, you are our client, and our job here is to give you the tools to give you that competitive edge. And I'm going to hand it back over to Casey for our questions and for her to do her tease.
Thanks so much, Tom. We certainly appreciate that. I know that a lot of the things that we asked today were tough, kind of complicated questions. If you have any questions, we encourage you to please submit those in the questions panel. And either myself, Tom, or Jennifer, and I'll be honest, it'll probably be Jennifer or Tom, we'll address those questions as best as we can. And if there's something that we need to get further clarification on, we can always send those to Michelle and follow up with all of the attendees on today's call. So enter those questions in the questions panel. Before we get to any questions that we have, Tom mentioned a bit of a tease for the next session, our final session of our ACA webinar series. And we're going to be talking about our new platform, ACA Connect. I can't tell you how excited we are here at Medcom to launch ACA Connect. It's just kind of impossible to describe. It's been a really long process, a really long road of developing this amazing platform that has so many different offerings for brokers and employers to track and monitor and figure out and schedule appointments and do all of these things on this really easy to navigate platform. So in 2 weeks from today, we will be discussing ACA Connect. Here's a little screenshot tease of the platform itself. We're going to talk about what ACA Connect is, what it means, how it's going to be a game changer in the ACA full service solutions that we offer here at MedCom Benefit Solutions. We're going to break down the broker features, and we're also going to break down the employer features so that each of you can use this as a tool and use ACA Connect as a prospecting tool in getting those new clients and securing that business for yourself. And then we're also going to talk about real-time process tracking and what that looks like and what that means and how that really affects business and moving forward with ACA employer reporting. All right, so we are opening up questions now. So if you have any of those questions, please submit those in the questions panel. As of right now, I don't have any questions that are coming through. Jennifer, I'm just going to ask you, hey, I don't want to put you on the spot here. Is there anything that you needed to provide clarification on today? Anything where maybe I misspoke? Please feel free to add anything in here if there's anything you would like to share.
Thank you so much, Casey. I believe that all of the questions that Michelle had put together, you answered them appropriately with the information that was provided. There is no additional feedback that I can provide to those. But of course, if anybody does have any questions, I'm here to answer those.
Thank you so much, Jennifer.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Hey, Jennifer, it's Tom. I'd actually like, you, myself, Casey were discussing before this meeting started about the coding and an issue we see with some vendors. And could you kind of go over that a little bit? We don't, doesn't pertain to any particular vendor, but it's a coding that we see a lot of, and that we really are concerned that it could cause an audit, quite frankly. And Michelle has spoken on it before, but I think it's important enough to go back over.
No problem, Tom. So yes, we were speaking about payroll companies. They typically tend to sway with the 1A code. And this code, as Michelle has stated, is a red flag for the IRS to do an audit, because 1A is just saying that your coverage is affordable, you're offering it to everybody, it meets all of the guidelines, instead of going ahead and using the codes that we tend to use, the 1E and 2C, or 1E and a safe harbor that shows what your premium amount is. It shows when your employees go through their waiting period. It shows all of the details. So we try to keep you away from those IRS audits.
Thank you. Casey?
No problem.
Yeah, thank you, Tom, for bringing that up, and thanks, Jennifer, for tackling that. I know it was some confusion, and we have talked about it on here before, but it is something that we see quite often. So thank you all for joining us today. Special thanks to Jennifer and for Tom for being on the webinar series, and we will see you in 2 weeks where we talk more about our exciting new tracking platform, ACA Connect. Thank you again. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to Tom. Here's his email address. It's tneal@medcombenefits.com. You can always just visit medcombenefits.com for more information about all our services and solutions. And of course, we are all over social media. Follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook as we post daily updates about everything that we have going on here. Thank you all so much. We hope you have a wonderful rest of your week.